You are at a jewelry counter.
The clerk lays a watch on the velvet, the kind of piece that costs more than a used car, and the man next to you, the one who could pay for it in cash without blinking glances at it, shakes his
head once and walks away. That moment doesn't make sense to most people, because we've been taught that money and spending move together.
The richer someone gets, the more they buy. That's the story we've absorbed without ever questioning it.
But the people who quietly retire wealthy in this country do almost the opposite. Somewhere along the way, they stopped buying the exact things everyone else is still chasing.
Today, we're going to walk through 10 of those things, and underneath all 10 sits one single idea.
The people who hang on to money learn to separate what looks rich from what actually makes you rich.
That's really the whole game. Nearly every product marketed to the average consumer is built to quietly drain the second thing while dressing itself up as the first.
The purchase whispers that you've made it, while it silently pushes your real progress backward by years.
Once you can see that gap, these 10 choices stop looking like sacrifice and start looking like common sense.
None of them require a big salary. All of them require a clear head. A few might sting, because you may spot your own habits hiding in the list, and that sting is doing you a favor.
One more thing before we start. None of these people are cheap. They aren't hoarding coins in a drawer or refusing to enjoy their lives.
They spend freely on the things that genuinely matter to them, time with people they love, experiences, memories.
What they've built instead is a filter, a way of telling the difference between a purchase that builds a life and a purchase that only rents the appearance of one.
That filter can be learned at any age, on any income. Stick around, because by the end, the thread connecting all 10 will be obvious.
Number 1, the brand. New car. Step onto a dealership lot, and the math is designed to disappear. The paint gleams, the interior smells expensive, and the payment is worded to sound painless.
By late 2025, the average new car in America had crossed the $50,000 mark, an all-time high.
And the second you drive it away, it starts losing value faster than nearly anything else you'll ever own.
Roughly 20% vanishes in the first year alone. By year 5, you've typically given back around 60% of the sticker price.
Run that on a $50,000 car and it's brutal. Close to $10,000 gone in year 1, roughly $30,000 gone by year 5. Not spent on transportation, just evaporated
while it sat in your driveway, and that's before financing costs, before insurance that's priced off the car's value, before fuel and upkeep.
Quietly wealthy retirees let someone else eat that first, steepest slice of depreciation.
A lightly used car, 3 or 4 years old, has already absorbed the worst of the hit while losing almost none of its usefulness.
So that's what they buy. Dependable models with long track records, purchased used, and then driven for a decade or more.
A car with no payment attached to it is one of the most underrated wealth-building tools in the country because every payment-free month is a month that money can go somewhere better.
Here's the part most people never calculate. The true cost of a car isn't the number on the window.
It's that number, plus loan interest, plus value-based insurance, plus whatever that money could have earned sitting in the market instead.
Trading in for a new loan every 5 or 6 years, on repeat for decades, can quietly cost a household its entire retirement cushion, one signature at a time.
Picture 2 coworkers earning identical paychecks their whole careers. One always has a new car and a payment.
The other buys a car 3 years old, drives it into the ground, and invests what the payment would have been.
30 years later, their driveways look the same. Their bank balances are not remotely close. Number 2, the luxury status symbol.
Back to that watch on the counter, because it explains more than any spreadsheet could. There's a persistent myth that wealthy people are constantly draped in visibly expensive things.
The actual data on real net worth tells a much quieter story.
Many people who have genuinely accumulated serious money drive unremarkable cars, live in unremarkable houses, and wouldn't dream of spending 5 figures on a wristwatch whose only job is to announce,
their bank balance to strangers. The reason is simple. A status purchase delivers a short burst of pride and a long tail of upkeep.
It needs insuring. It invites comparison.
And worse, it starts a chain reaction. The expensive watch wants an expensive car beside it. The car wants an address to match. The address wants furniture that fits the image.
One small signal snowballs into an entire lifestyle, and that lifestyle quietly eats the very freedom the money was supposed to buy in the first place.
This is exactly the trap that follows a raise, a bonus. A good year's spending climbs to meet the new income, and real security never shows up.
What genuinely wealthy people have figured out is something the entire luxury industry is engineered to make you forget. Money isn't for looking rich.
It's for the quiet, unglamorous calm of never needing anyone else to know.
They drop the logo and keep the freedom, and they usually end up with more of both than the people performing wealth all around them.
There's a name for this among people who study how fortunes are actually kept: stealth wealth.
What they're chasing is freedom, and freedom doesn't photograph well, so nobody bothers marketing it to you.
What gets marketed instead is the costume of having arrived, and that costume is always rented, never owned.
Number 3. Extended warranties. You've heard this pitch at every register in the country. For a little extra, we'll protect your purchase.
It sounds responsible. In the overwhelming majority of cases, it's one of the most reliable ways ever invented to hand a company free money.
An extended warranty is just insurance, and insurance only makes sense when the potential loss would genuinely hurt you.
The seller already knows the failure rate, the repair cost, and exactly how to price the plan so that, on average, they collect far more than they'll ever pay out.
That's not an accident. That gap is the entire business model.
You're paying a guaranteed premium for a small chance of a modest repair, and the odds are stacked so most buyers never come out ahead.
The comfortable feeling of being covered is the actual product being sold. The coverage itself is usually thin and buried in fine print.
Multiply $100 warranty here and $100 warranty there across a lifetime of televisions, phones, and appliances, and the pattern becomes obvious. Quietly wealthy retirees do the opposite of what feels intuitive. They self-insure the small stuff.
If a blender dies or a laptop stumbles, they simply replace it out of a modest cash cushion they keep for exactly that.
What they won't do is pay an ongoing premium to a stranger for a risk they can easily absorb themselves.
Real insurance dollars get reserved for the events that could actually wreck them. A house fire, a serious illness, a lawsuit.
Everything small and survivable they carry on their own. Number 4, the whole life policy they never actually needed.
This one needs care, because life insurance genuinely matters when people depend on your income.
The trap isn't protection. It's being steered toward the most expensive, most commission, heavy version of it, dressed up as a clever financial move.
Cash value policies, often sold as whole life or universal life, bundle insurance together with a savings component, and the premiums can run several times higher than plain term coverage for
Identical death benefit. A large chunk of those early premiums goes straight to commissions and fees, not growth.
The illustrations look impressive on paper, all smooth upward curves stretching decades out.
The early year reality is usually weak returns, steep penalties if you try to exit, and a product so tangled that even the buyer struggles to explain what they actually own.
There's an old rule among advisors who genuinely work for you, not a commission. If you can't explain what a product does and how it earns money in one plain sentence, you probably shouldn't own it.
Whole life products routinely fail that test by design.
People who manage money well tend to do the boring, effective version instead. Buy term insurance for the years their family is actually vulnerable, the mortgage years, the young kids' years for
Fraction of the bundled price, then invest the difference themselves in low cost funds they fully understand.
Protection over here, investing over there, 2 clean jobs instead of one tangled contract with a salesman's incentive baked into every payment.
Number 5, high-fee actively managed funds. This one hides in plain sight because the cost feels invisible while the damage is enormous. Every fund charges an expense ratio, a yearly slice of your balance taken out whether the fund wins, loses, or does nothing.
Actively managed funds, run by someone promising to beat the market, often charge well over 0.5% a year.
A plain index fund that simply tracks the whole market can charge 1/10 of that. Said out loud, the gap sounds trivial.
Given decades to compound, it's anything but.
Here's the part the wealthy fixate on, and everyone else shrugs off. Over the last decade, roughly 2 out of 3 actively managed funds failed to beat the very index they were trying to outsmart.
You're paying a premium for a product that usually underperforms the cheap alternative sitting right beside it.
And that fee is skimmed every single year, compounding against you for the entire life of the investment.
Run real numbers, $100,000 growing over 25 years, the gap between the higher active fee and the rock, bottom index fee comes out to roughly $65,000.
Quietly lifted out of your future for the privilege of underperforming.
People who retire wealthy treat fees the way a good captain treats a slow leak below the waterline. They find it, seal it, and refuse to keep paying for underperformance year after year.
Number 6, the biggest house they can qualify for. After decades of hard work, there's a strong pull toward more square footage, the dream kitchen. The guest rooms visited twice a year.
The bank tells you the number you qualify for, and that number is almost always bigger than what's actually wise, because a house is the rare purchase that keeps billing you long after you've signed.
A bigger home means bigger everything. Property taxes that rise with the value, insurance premiums that keep climbing, and heavier maintenance because every system, roof, plumbing, heating, costs.
More at scale, yearly upkeep alone typically runs a meaningful slice of the home's value, arriving whether you planned for it or not.
The house bought to be enjoyed slowly becomes a house you work for, and it doesn't pay a salary back.
For someone living on a mostly fixed retirement income, an oversized home can slowly turn into a beautiful cage.
The 2026 Social Security cost of living adjustment landed at 8%, pushing the average retired worker's benefit just past $2,000 a month, a modest cushion against rising costs, and
oversized home can swallow it before the month is half over. Property taxes don't retire when you do.
So the wealthy do something that looks, on the surface, like a step backward. They right-size on purpose.
Some downsize into a home that actually fits their current life, freeing up trapped equity.
Others simply stay in the modest, paid-off house and refuse to trade up just because a lender says they can.
Either way, the money that would have heated empty rooms goes instead toward travel, time, and the freedom to say yes when it matters.
If breakdowns like this are useful to you, take a second and subscribe. This channel digs into how wealth is actually built and kept every week, no hype attached.
Number 7, the timeshare. The pitch is always polished, a beautiful resort, a free dinner, a warm host, and the promise of wonderful vacations for life.
What almost nobody calculates in that room is what those vacations will actually cost once the ink dries. And the answer keeps climbing with no ceiling.
Average annual maintenance fees on a timeshare hit around $1,500 in 2024, jumping more than 17% in a single year, far outpacing ordinary inflation.
Stretched across a typical ownership span, maintenance fees alone can exceed $40,000 over 20 years, not counting the original purchase price or the surprise assessments that show
up whenever the roof needs replacing.
And the fees never stop, pay it off completely, and the bills keep arriving whether you visit or not, whether you're 85 and would rather stay home or not.
When owners finally try to exit, they discover the resale market is nearly worthless, with countless units listed for a single dollar by people desperate just to end the annual drain.
Quietly wealthy retirees almost never go near them. When they want a week somewhere warm, they simply rent the exact place for the exact week and owe nothing once they check out.
Total flexibility, no contract following them for the rest of their lives. Number 8, the newest gadget on release day.
Every year, the same ritual repeats. A new phone, a thinner laptop, a launch event engineered to make last year's perfectly functional device suddenly feel outdated.
The upgrade is rarely about need. It's a manufactured itch, and millions of people scratch it instantly, often financing it on top of everything else they're already paying for.
Quietly wealthy people sit the whole ritual out, not because they can't afford it, but because they refuse to pay what amounts to an early adopter tax.
They let a device do its job for years, and when they finally upgrade, they tend to buy a generation or two behind the cutting edge. After prices have dropped and the early bugs have been fixed by
everyone who couldn't wait. The phone still makes calls. The laptop still does the work. And the price difference goes into the market instead of a store line on a cold launch morning.
On its own, this looks like a trivial habit.
Repeated across decades and every category of gadget, it becomes a steady stream of money flowing toward their future instead of someone else's product launch.
Number 9, lottery tickets and the get-rich quick bet. The lottery doesn't really sell tickets, it sells hope.
For a couple of dollars, you get to imagine a different life for a few minutes. And there's nothing wrong with an occasional daydream.
The problem starts when the daydream becomes a weekly habit. Per capita, a lottery spending in the U.S.
now tops $300 a year, and the heaviest players average around $500 annually, a painful share of that coming from households that can least afford to lose it.
Look at the odds and the spell breaks fast. The chance of hitting a major jackpot sits near 1 in 290, 2 million. You are statistically far more likely to be struck by lightning.
But the ticket price was never the real cost. What that same money could have quietly become is where the real damage lies.
Take that $500 a year, invest it at a normal long-term market rate, and over 25 years, it grows past $150,000.
The lottery sells a fantasy with near impossible odds. Compounding offers something close to a certainty, just slower, and far less thrilling on a Wednesday night.
Number 10, a carried credit card balance. This might be the most expensive habit in modern American life, and it disguises itself as simple convenience.
Credit cards are excellent tools used correctly, and one of the fastest wealth destroyers ever invented used incorrectly.
The average card interest rate now sits near 21%, and Americans collectively carry more than $2 trillion in card balances.
Carry $5,000 at that rate, and you're handing over roughly $1,000 a year in interest alone, before touching what you actually bought.
Quietly wealthy people treat the card as a payment tool and nothing else, using it for rewards and convenience, then paying the statement in full every single time, so not a cent of interest ever
leaves their pocket.
That one discipline, never letting a balance linger overnight, is one of the clearest dividing lines between households that build wealth and households that quietly bleed out, wondering where it
all went, bringing it together.
Step back and look at all 10. The new car, the status watch, the warranty, the bloated insurance policy, the high-fee fund, the oversized house, the timeshare, the launch, day gadget, the lottery
ticket, the carried balance. On the surface, they look unrelated.
Underneath, they're the same decision made 10 different ways, each one trading a piece of your future for something that only looks like wealth right now.
The people who end up genuinely secure are simply the ones who learn to stop making that trade, not through a burst of willpower, but as a quiet, repeated default.
And that's the encouraging part. A default can be rebuilt. You don't need a windfall or a raise to start.
You just need to see the trade clearly, the way the person on the other side of that jewelry counter already does.
The watch goes back in the case, and the future goes into the account instead. What ties this whole list together isn't iron discipline or some rare frugality gene.
It's understanding, once you actually grasp how compounding works, how fees quietly erode a balance, and how depreciation and interest work against you in the background, these choices stop feeling
Like sacrifices and start feeling obvious, the people who skip these 10 things aren't depriving themselves of anything.
They're buying the one thing money can actually purchase, the freedom to stop worrying about it.
If this kind of breakdown is useful, subscribe for more, and drop a comment with which one of these 10 hit closest to home.
See you in the next one.